What if I told you that the rules that really govern your success or failure are as real and unavoidable as the laws of physics? Today, we're going to dive into a set of principles that aren't just, good ideas. They're the fundamental architecture of reality itself. And that right there is the crucial point. These are not life hacks. They're not motivational slogans. They are structural constants. You can't just opt out of them any more than you can decide to float off the face of the earth. Really, the only choice you have is whether you're going to work with them or spend your life struggling against them. So what are these invisible forces? These things that are shaping everything from our biggest wins to our toughest losses? Well, in this explainer, we're going to map them out, rule by rule. So here's our game plan. We'll start with what we're calling the physics of your life. Then we'll get into the laws of growth and stability. After that, the laws of interaction. And we'll wrap it all up with the one master rule that connects everything: feedback. Okay, first up, the physics of your life. This is really our foundation. It's the core idea that our lives are governed by these fundamental forces that honestly, we just can't ignore. Section 2, the laws of growth. Now, we all want to build something meaningful, something that lasts, right? But as we're about to see, growth isn't just about expanding like crazy. It has its own very specific set of rules. And what's so cool about this is how these 4 principles all work together in this delicate balance. First, growth requires limits. Just think about it. A skyscraper needs a deep foundation. If you just keep building up without that structure, the whole thing is going to collapse. Next, external input enhances. Of course you need to learn from others, but the key is not becoming totally reliant on them. Third, intelligence scales by networked integration. The big takeaway here is that no great success happens in a vacuum. You amplify it through connections and alliances. And finally, if you want something to last, it has to be externalized. Turn into a system, a process, something that can exist beyond just you. But look, growth is only half the battle. For every force of creation, there's an equal and opposite force of decay. So how do you protect what you've worked so hard to build? Well, that brings us to the laws of stability. This is one of the most important and maybe one of the most sobering rules in the entire universe. If you do nothing, things don't just stay the same. They get worse. They literally fall apart. In this natural slide towards disorder, it actually has a name: entropy. It's the reason a clean room gets messy all by itself. It's why a perfectly tuned machine will eventually break down, and why a skill you've mastered gets rusty if you don't practice. Entropy is this constant, invisible pressure pushing everything toward chaos. And the only thing that can fight it is continuous, intentional effort. And this is exactly how we fight back against that entropy. See, maintaining success isn't something you just achieve. It's an active process. You have to constantly be refining, constantly putting in the energy. Neglect is the silent killer of all great things. And you got to remember, real long-term success comes from optimizing the systems you already have, not from taking some risky shortcut. Okay, so we've got how to build things and how to maintain them. But what happens when the world pushes back, when things get tough? This is where the laws of interaction come in. They're all about how we deal with challenges, constraints, and the constant pressure of reality. This side is so important. When we're faced with a problem, our first instinct is usually to suppress it, right? To ignore it, fight it, just try to make it go away with brute force. But what the rules tell us is that this just makes the problem stronger. It's like building a dam. The pressure just keeps building up behind it. The successful approach? Integration. You adapt to the pressure and you redirect its energy. You don't fight the current, you learn how to steer within it. In a way, comfort is the real enemy of growth. We need that pressure. We need that challenge to force us to adapt. And that's what adaptability is all about. It's restructuring ourselves in response to the limits we hit. And this brings up a huge idea: phase transitions. Sometimes you hit a limit where the old way of doing things just doesn't work anymore. At that point, you face a really stark choice. You either evolve into something new, or you collapse. So we've talked about growth, stability, and interaction. But there's one single master concept that ties all of them together. A single mechanism that drives everything we've discussed so far. And that, my friends, is the rule of feedback. This right here is the engine of all progress. And notice, it's not a straight line, it's a loop. You act. You will inevitably hit a challenge. That challenge gives you feedback. It's just data on what's working and what isn't. Then you take that feedback, you refine your approach, and you act again. Growth, stability, adaptation, they are all just products of this incredibly powerful repeating loop.
Just let that sink in for a second. Feedback loops aren't just a good strategy for success, they literally define reality. Every single thing you do, every action you take, feeds into a loop that reinforces some kind of pattern, for better or for worse. Your habits, your relationships, your career, all of it is the result of the loops you are currently running, whether you're aware of them or not.
And this is the ultimate takeaway. This is the most empowering part of it all. You are not just a passive victim of these rules. You are the architect. You have the power to look at the loops in your life, to actually understand them, and then to redesign them. You can choose to stop feeding the loops that lead to stagnation and disorder, and you can start deliberately building the ones that lead to growth and stability. So, I'm going to leave you with this one question. Just look at your actions today, right now. What patterns are they reinforcing? What future are they building for you, one action at a time? Which loop are you feeding?